Good evening, friends, and welcome to the Weeknight. I'm Michael Steele with Symone Sanders-Townsend and Alicia Menendez. Breaking tonight, how the Epstein scandal overwhelmed the White House. The president so afraid at one point that he turned the Situation Room into an Epstein war room. Congressman Stephen Lynch of the Oversight Committee is with us in moments.
Also ahead, Trump says he, quote, loves the inflation as the key economic indicator just hit its highest levels in 3 years.
We have breaking news on the president's erratic Iran messaging. He keeps saying the war is almost over, and yet moments ago, the United States launched new strikes against multiple Iranian targets. We have the latest coming up. But tonight we start with breaking news. House Oversight Chairman James Comer has now walked back the statement he made just yesterday, refusing to call Trump's Attorney General nominee to testify about the Epstein files.
I'm communicating with the Department of Justice. I would like for Todd Blanche to come in July. I've always wanted Blanche to come in. I think that the main thing that we have for Blanche is the question on, what, if any, documents are left out there.
And here's how Democrats took that news.
Todd Blanche is at the heart of the cover-up of this case, as was revealed, especially in the New York Times explosive reporting today about Situation Room meetings that were held in which Todd Blanche, as the president's personal attorney and deputy AG, was working with others, including the vice president, to help to try to cover up this case.
The Times reporting describes the, quote, White House freakout over the Epstein files. Comes from Maggie Haberman and Jonathan Swan, who conducted more than 1,000 interviews with people connected to the White House for their upcoming book, Regime Change. The Times describes infighting that took place last year in the Situation Room, during which senior officials gathered without the president multiple times to try to manage the fallout over their failure to release the files. Other reporting details how the president tried to quash that now infamous Wall Street Journal story about a 2003 Epstein birthday book. Trump calling the journal's editor-in-chief, as well as the chief executive of the journal's parent company, and even Rupert Murdoch, begging for the story to be killed, to no avail. In a statement to the Times, the White House did not deny the claims, adding Trump was innocent in all Epstein-related matters. And breaking tonight, the Oversight Committee grilled Microsoft co-founder Bill Gates over his past ties to Epstein. Gates said his relationship with Epstein was strictly professional and that he cut ties after realizing their charitable interests were not aligned. Gates denies any wrongdoing and has not been charged with any crime related to Epstein.
Can I ask just a quick question to everybody? Was it not just, 2 days ago, maybe, that James Comer derided Democrats for clutching their pearls, for wanting to have Todd Blanche come before the committee and speak? He was saying that there was nothing more to see here, and now he tells us that, what did he say? I've always wanted Blanche to come before the committee.
That was yesterday.
Crazy.
Okay.
What a difference 24 hours makes.
You two help me understand.
I don't know what prompted Chairman Comer to have his epiphany, if you will, for lack of a better term. I know we're going to ask, hopefully, you know what, I'm going to ask the congressman in just a second. I encourage people to read the New York Times story if you don't want to read it because it is very long. You can also hit play and an AI voice will read it to you. It is about a 48-minute read. The story is damning. It confirms things, frankly, that, and I mean, look, I believe Maggie Haberman and Jonathan Swan are great reporters, okay? I think that this confirms things that many of us already knew, that the White House, that people closest to the president were extremely concerned about what was happening, what was in the Epstein files, that there are conspiracy theorists at the highest levels of our government. Leave it to Susie Wiles, apparently she's including the Vice President of the United States in that they would go through great lengths to not release this information, that they know how damaging the information is, that they intentionally held the information prior to Keir Starmer and the president having a press conference so that they didn't have to deal with the fallout and the president and Keir Starmer weren't asked questions about it. The rabbit hole goes deep here, folks. Very, very deep.
Let's bring into our conversation Democratic Congressman Stephen Lynch of Massachusetts. He is a member of the Oversight Committee, and he was in today's interview with Bill Gates.
Well, Congressman, why do you believe Chairman Comer had a epiphany 24 hours later?
He probably talked to the White House. I think that was the reason for his change in attitude. However, we are still insisting that Todd Blanche come in under oath and testify. And in the past, I mean, that's how we got Pam Bondi in there. Was we relied on a couple of Republican members to allow us to pass that vote for a subpoena. So today's interview with Bill Gates was simply a transcribed interview. He was not under subpoena. But to get Blanche in and to require him to tell the truth, we would need him under oath.
You know, Congressman, I asked that question to my colleagues in the audience to sort of ponder that transition, that change of Mr. Comer. And it struck me as Alicia was reading us in that if the White House was so concerned to the point that they're having off-the-record meetings in the Situation Room without the president to go and figure out what to do about the non-release of the Epstein files on a series of bases, it still befuddles me why that urgency and that concern never translated to the members of the body in the majority. And why it took, you know, maybe a call from the White House or the president to finally get Mr. Comer to understand the urgency or the importance of the moment. Having that now as a backdrop, you sat in today and heard Bill Gates in his testimony. What did you take away from that? Do you sense that he was truthful and forthcoming with the information relative to the evidence that at least partially that you have? Because you don't have all 3 million, the remaining 3 million documents. We don't know what's in those, but let's work with what we got.
We got a lot.
Where do you see things with Mr. Gates?
I thought his testimony today, it was over about 4 hours, he was cooperative. He did not avoid questions. He did not obfuscate. He didn't try to avoid things. I mean, we had a lot of evidence out in front of us. Many of those emails were very cryptic, and we asked for explanations, and he provided those. He did push back a couple of times on emails that were written by Jeffrey Epstein to Jeffrey Epstein, but they had, you know, allegations about Bill Gates and his conduct, and he pushed back on those because you know, he alleged that those allegations were not true. But I have to say he was forthright and he was apologetic because you know, I asked him a question. I said, you know, Mr. Gates, the moment you met Jeffrey Epstein, he was already a registered sex offender.
Right.
So how do you have a multi-year relationship, business or otherwise, with someone who was accused of doing that? And he had no good response. But he did say that Epstein played him, wanted to get control of some of the funding, you know, not within the Gates Foundation, but Epstein had promised him that he would bring money from other sources to
help fund the foundation.
To help fund their work, not within the foundation, but you know, he's got a global health initiative. Does great work on that, by the way. But that was the law that Epstein put out there. In the end, you know, I have to say, based on what we saw on the documents, it was Melinda Gates, ironically, who put her foot down and said, "Look, I know about this guy's past. You cannot do. I don't want to see this guy again."
Can I just say, Congressman, we have some sound from Melinda Gates from an NPR interview that she did on February 3rd, and I just want to play this sound for you.
Okay.
For me, it's personally hard whenever those details come up, right? Because brings back memories of some very, very painful times in my marriage. So whatever questions remain there of what I can't even begin to know all of it, those questions are for those people and for even my ex-husband. They need to answer to those things, not me.
Did Bill Gates answer for those things? Because Melinda Gates, every time she has spoken about this, and it has been measured, and it has been few since the reports of since their divorce was first reported and actually final, she has been very careful in what she has said. But the subtext, every time I hear Melinda Gates speak about this, is that Bill Gates has something he needs to say. And it's not for her to say it, it's for Bill Gates to say it. And I don't get the impression that he said it today during his testimony, but you were there.
Right.
Did he?
There was a moment here when Epstein was pursuing Bill Gates as a target, and that funding, that's what he was after. When Epstein actually had the information which was not public yet, that Gates had several, multiple extramarital affairs. It was not public yet. And he was using that, and there were elements of blackmail there around that dynamic. So, I think that was, Bill Gates said that was the impetus for him to go to his wife and say, this is what happened.
So Bill Gates basically claimed in his testimony today that Jeffrey Epstein was blackmailing him and he wasn't really his friend. Okay.
There was elements of that, yeah.
There was another piece that Ranking Member Garcia brought up today that I want to play for our audience, and then I would like you to expound upon what we hear from the congressman.
It's important to note that Mr. Gates does understand that he was around people and likely assistants and those employed by Mr. Gates that were also abused. And so he was around people that were actually abused, and that was recognized in some of the discussion that we had inside.
I'm curious, if Bill Gates can make that concession, why have so many of the other people you have brought in for interviews not been able to make the same concession?
Yeah, that's on them. I do know that Gates was apologetic about that. That he said, absolutely, I allowed my priority being the global health initiative to get in the way of what the right thing that I should have done.
Is he saying he recognizes this retrospectively or in real time that he recognized that those women were being abused?
Well, he said on multiple occasions, he said once the Epstein files came out, he found the scope of all this and how many women. I mean, I think we're up over 1,000 in terms of people who have said that since 2001, when this began, to 2018, when Jeffrey Epstein took his own life, there were about 1,000 women that were impacted, some of them from Eastern Europe, some of them from Russia, many of them here in the United States. But, this was a network. He could not do this by himself, one man, even with Ghislaine Maxwell.
It's interesting, the connection or intersection of the desires of these very wealthy men that have probably nothing to do with the despicable part of Epstein's life, but they've got something that they want to promote and push out. Epstein knows that. Epstein figures out a way to worm his way in, get to know them. Yeah. But there's still, for me, that point that after the fact of his acknowledgement and conviction relative to sexual predation, these individuals still engaged with him. And I thought Representative Stansbury today really kind of pushed on that, and she responded relayed back to us what that conversation, what Mr. Gates said about that particular aspect of still going forward and asking, was it worth it? Was it really worth it to do all this? Yeah. This is what she had to say.
The language that he used is that in spite of knowing Mr. Epstein's reputation, he saw a narrow role for accessing potential donors for his global health initiatives. And so when I asked him, are you saying that the ends justified the means? He said, well, that's probably too strong of language, but I felt that getting billions of dollars for global health was worth it.
That's a very interesting, so it kind of feeds a little bit of what you put on the table about Epstein as playing the role of a little bit of a blackmailer, probably a lot of that. Yeah. But how was your reading of that moment and his justification or explanation for continuing? Because for me, that's the hardest part. I think all of us at this table, if we were doing business with or been approached by somebody who had that kind of a background and reputation that we knew of that was public, in terms of sexual, again, predation and going after young girls, I don't think I'd want to do business with them. I think if I'm Bill Gates, I already got a network, right? I don't know if I really need Jeffrey Epstein's network.
Yeah.
Is Jeffrey Epstein's network bigger or better than Bill Gates's network?
Yeah.
So help me understand that and square that circle.
Yeah, there's another aspect of this too. So, Epstein was making this pitch that he could amplify what Bill Gates was doing with the Gates Foundation and this global health initiative. There were a couple of interventions. I mentioned the intervention by Melinda Gates.
Mm-hmm.
She came in and basically blew it up. But there were also other emails from people who knew Epstein. And they said, this guy, and they emailed, there were emails. We didn't know who they were from because they were initially redacted, but they were to Bill Gates, and it said, be very careful. You need a healthy distance between yourself and Epstein. And he is a master manipulator. In one sentence, it said, he will discover your priorities and your vulnerabilities and your proclivities, and he will capitalize on that. And that's what he did, right? Bill Gates was totally into the global health initiative. Well, that's where he went. He knew that was something that drove that man, and so that was his. That was his pitch. So
I know we have to go, but I just want to say that I find it incredulous that apparently these very powerful men in America came before the committee today, Congressman, and Bill Gates essentially said, I was scared. He was blackmailing me. It sounds like he didn't take any responsibility. And the idea that Bill Gates needed, it's incredulous. So I'm not buying this BS. And I think this is why so many people out there are pissed off. There's a little truth to every single conspiracy theory in America. That's how they continue to fester.
My question is, as we throw to you, Alicia, is if he did this with Bill Gates, I can only imagine what he did with Trump.
Congressman Stephen Lynch, thank you so much, sir, for being with us
Alicia.
at the table. Coming up, a bizarre admission today from Donald Trump. He, quote, loves the inflation. Cornell Belcher is going to help us break that down. And later, breaking news, the president keeps trying to downplay his war of choice in Iran, and yet the United States just launched new strikes on multiple Iranian targets. You are watching The Weeknight.
Tonight, Donald Trump is embracing the highest inflation rate in 3 years. This would be hilarious if it wasn't real life. Take a listen.
You know what I really love? I love the inflation. You know why? Because as soon as this war is over, everything was going well. And I said, I hate to do this to you guys, but Iran's going to have a nuclear weapon very soon. But now I'm going to take it down a little bit because we cannot let Iran have a nuclear weapon. When the war is over, yes, it's coming down. I know you can't. It's going to come down like a rock.
Donald Trump keeps promising quick relief on his war of choice. Quick relief once the war of choice, the war that he started, is over. We are over 100 days into that war, and the voters, they are not buying it. A new Reuters poll finds 59% of Americans expect gas prices to get worse over the next year. The poll also finds 63% disapprove of Trump's job performance. How about that? Joining us now is Cornell Belcher, pollster and Democratic strategist. He's also an MSNOW political analyst.
Cornell, out of all of this, it's crazy stuff that Symone just showed us in the Oval Office. The leading thing is, I love inflation. I'm just telling you, if I had that kind of narrative available to me in 2010,
where the
oh,
ads.
baby. Yeah. Oh, my God, we would have had 75, 76 House seats. So you're writing the ads, right?
You've got to think that House and Senate Republicans just wanted to stop talking. because now every House and Senate Republican is going to be asked about, do you love inflation? Right, and he is making a very difficult environment for House and Senate Republicans even more difficult because now they've got to answer for this. And yes, you're correct. That will be in ads in every battleground congressional district coming. So he's actually helping Democrats, and they have to at some point think he pulls back. And by the way, before the Iran war, it wasn't like Americans thought the economy was great.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Because they did not. The vast majority of Americans thought the economy was off the wrong track and the country was off on the wrong track and they were struggling with wages. The Iran war has only put a cherry on top of their economic angst with the high price of gases.
Yeah. So while Democrats are busy thinking about all the ads they're going to cut, that barely even need scripting. It's one of those, like, just play the page kind of things.
Get out of the way of it.
just a disclaimer at the end.
Oh, yeah, the endorsement at the end. Exactly.
That's all you need.
Republicans are workshopping, I guess, what their defense of all of this is going to be. This was Secretary of Agriculture Brooke Rollins going back and forth with Senator Raphael Warnock about the current affordability crisis. I want you to hear the best defense she has.
Right now, somebody's trying to buy groceries in Georgia, and they can't afford it.
Well, but that's because of the Biden administration is the reason.
2 years later, that's your answer? Because of the Biden administration?
Look at this. Look at all the prices that have come down. Avocados down 20%, berries down 13%, butter down 13%, eggs down 90%.
Grocery costs are up. You don't dispute that, right? Even as you call these individual items, you don't dispute that grocery costs are up in America.
The affordability question in America is real, and the work to bring those costs down continue.
This administration loves a prop, honey.
Poor Joe Biden.
Like the cherry picking, it's like Americans won't see through that. I mean, the vast majority of Americans understand that their prices are up, and they disapprove of the job that the president's doing. Especially when you look at independent voters, over 70% disapprove of the job he's doing with the cost of living. At some point, it just baffles me that this is their strategy. That their strategy is to pretend that everything is fine.
Avocados are down, so
you know what?
Should feel okay.
I have a prop. This is the year-over-year increase, item by item. This is from May 2025 to May 2026. Beef is actually only up 12.9% from May 2025 to May 2026. Fruits and veggies are up 6.1%. Non-alcoholic beverages, think soda and juices, up 5.8%. Gas, up 40.5%. Airline fare, up 26.7%. And hospital services are up 5.7%. That is data from the Consumer Price Index released today by the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics.
You don't have to argue the facts with the American people, because they know and they understand. The question is, and I want you, and I see we're going to see this unpack over the next couple of months. The question is, what do they run on? Because they certainly can't run on the economy when independent voters have
big,
already.
Beautiful bill, baby. That's what they run.
Well, that's already in the tank, right? That started off.
No, but I wasn't really joking there. That's. I'm sorry. I did that sound like I was joking?
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, you did.
No.
You think they're gonna run on the one big
think they
bill?
are? They are. Go back and look at some. Look at some of these
They
primaries.
stopped talking. They stopped talking about the bill months ago because they went to a little retreat and they were showing polling that said, "Oh, this is very unpopular," and then they wanted to rebrand it as a tax cut, and that didn't work.
Oh, okay. They're doing it. But go ahead.
I just don't know how they get out from under the chaos frame that Democrats are invariably going to use, because Donald Trump ran on this idea of the economy is out of control, the border is out of control. I mean, much of it made up, but that was the sort of framework of his messaging. And as I understand it, part of what voters are responding to when it comes to the economy, when it comes to the way in which this president is approaching immigration and deportation, even when it comes to something like the Epstein file, all of it is chaotic. None of it gives you a sense that they are in control and restoring order and security to a country that desperately wants it.
Yes. Well, and they have to own it now, because they're the party in charge and power. And again, even the old tricks where you'd say, oh, I'd scare the electorate into voting for me about crime and violence, and we're being invaded by immigrants. It's harder to do that
when you're in charge.
When you're in charge and you're in power. So again, I don't know what they're going to run on, because even that old pony doesn't really dance anymore when you're the incumbent.
We know they won't be running on the screw worm. So let's talk about the screw worm. Something very.
I'm very fired up about the screw worm.
I was going to say something very near and dear to Symone's heart. So this is the fly and its larvae that are infecting cattle in Texas in significant ways. The current situation means added costs for cattle ranchers who must absorb additional labor, veterinary fees, and monitoring expenses. And now the New World screwworm is a parasitic fly whose larvae burrows into the flesh of living warm-blooded animals. Sounds like someone I know, but or very familiar with in public office. What do you think about these? And I guess this part of the storyline is really the other things that come in and impact the narrative.
Yes.
All right, of that we've been talking about, because just when you think you may get around the corner and, to Alicia's point, have something to run on, you now have something else that comes in
because they gutted USAID.
Because they gutted USAID.
Who was keeping the screwworm out of America.
Control for the problem.
Yes. Well, again, that is part and parcel of they created this, right? These are their policies, and this is them running the government, and they're running the government poorly, and now it's impacting. You know this, around election time, there's always X factors. There's always going to be something that you just cannot predict comes up. And here we have a screwworm, I guess, screwing over the president and his party at the very last minute.
I just say, but that's why y'all need to buy that Omaha beef, okay? Shout out, go Big Red.
There we go.
Cornell Belcher.
Are you from Omaha?
Yes, I am. I'm from North Omaha. Come on now.
Lord have mercy.
Cornell Belcher, you might not be able to come back if you don't got the facts at the table.
We need to go to break quick because...
In just a moment, folks, we do have some breaking news on Iran as Trump's mixed messages confuse even members of his own administration. Stay with us. This is the Weeknight.
Breaking tonight, Central Command says the United States has launched a new round of, quote, self-defense strikes against Iran. And Iran state media says it has targeted an American base in northern Iraq and that the Strait of Hormuz is now completely closed. Trump's war of choice appears to be escalating, folks, just hours after he claimed a ceasefire. Now, look, that deal is nowhere in sight any longer. It's one of many mixed messages from the president on the war. Yesterday, Trump went from saying that a downed Apache helicopter near the Strait of Hormuz, quote, wasn't a big deal, to saying Iran had shot it down and that he was ordering retaliatory strikes. Many former members of the military are now running for office, in part to put a check on the president's war powers. More than 700 veterans, thank goodness, are out there as candidates for Congress this year. 39% are running as Democrats, the highest number since the nonpartisan group with Honor began tracking that data. Two of those Democratic congressional candidates joined us tonight. Rebecca Bennett of New Jersey is a former U.S. Navy helicopter pilot who was deployed to the Middle East and flew missions through the Strait of Hormuz. And Joanna Mendoza of Arizona is a retired U.S. Marine who served in Iraq and Afghanistan. And we are happy to welcome you both.
Thank you both.
Thank you so much.
Thank
you for having us.
How do you think Congress would be different if there were more people casting votes who understood firsthand what was at stake?
Well, I mean, that lived experience is absolutely important. Right now, we have a Congress who isn't motivated to do anything. They can't pass a budget. They can't give the American people relief. And so what we're seeing right now across the nation, and especially, you know, within the Hellcat group, is we're answering the call to serve. It took many times. It does not expire. And so for us, this is absolutely a matter of ensuring that when decisions are being made to send our kids into harm's way, that they're made, number one, with the approval of Congress, and two, by the American people.
This is some analysis by our colleague Steve Bannon on MS Now. Trump peddles more mixed messages after accusing Iran of downing a U.S. helicopter. This is what he writes. We remain in the middle of a ceasefire in which the fire has not ceased. It was weird to see Trump claim that Iran is powerless and, quote unquote, all talk and no action, while also accusing it of having shot down a U.S. helicopter. Though the combination of military strikes and mixed messages once again suggests the end point to the conflict is not near. There are real consequences. Yes, for the folks, the men and women serving in our U.S. armed forces, but also for the people here at home. Their families, but also the American people. We just ran down the numbers of what folks in this country are dealing with. And what is happening in the Strait of Hormuz right now, or what's not happening, let's just be very clear, is we're going to feel those effects for months and months after, even if the Strait were to open tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, well, I will say anytime we're going to go put American service members in harm's way, to your point, there needs to be a clear motivation, clear objective, and a clear exit strategy. And what we are seeing is that the Trump administration is learning in real time that it's much easier to start a war than it is to stop one. And it's exactly what I hear from people on the ground in my district, is that Trump ran on no more forever wars and lowering the cost of living. He's doing the exact opposite. And this is where House Republicans have absolutely failed to hold him accountable. And that's why we've got to flip the House to make sure we're holding them accountable.
You know, Joanna, the president has been consistent about one thing. He's been very consistent about not really engaging on this war and not really grabbing the mantle of responsibility to prosecute this war. He started this, to your important point. But since then, there are other things, damn it, that just seem to occupy his time. Like there's a basketball game he's got to go to. You know, there's a golf outing he's got to go to.
The UFC fight.
He's got a UFC fight he's got to prepare for. But doesn't have time to go to his son's wedding. Okay, that's cool. I got that because he had to do Iran stuff that day, which turns out he really didn't do. But here's the president talking about his sort of laser focus on this and how all this comes together at a tele-rally at almost the exact moment the Apache chopper was shot down. Let's take a listen.
It really is peace through strength. We've hit their Navy. Their Navy is totally gone. They had 159 ships. Every ship is underwater right now. Every ship is deep underwater. Their Air Force is gone. Their radar is gone. Their anti-aircraft is gone.
Their anti-aircraft is gone. Trump made those remarks at 5:46 p.m. Eastern, around the exact time. CENTCOM says the Apache helicopter crashed near the coast of Oman. Rescue occurred at 7:33. Crash happened within 2 hours before that. Trump says the Apache was shot down, once again contradicting his claim that their anti-aircraft is gone. And this is the problem.
And no mention of the service member, no mention of how this has put not only the civilians in Iran in danger, but our kids, right? Our sons and daughters. And I will argue that, I mean, who the heck is advising the president right now? Doesn't he have a cabinet? I mean, Secretary Hegseth, Secretary Rubio. Who is advising him on foreign policy right now? And why aren't they standing up? My opponent, Juan Ciscomani, is spineless. He has not said a single word pushing back on the president and this reckless war. Meanwhile, we have people in the district, parents, not just Democrats, not just independents, but I've heard from conservative parents that they are absolutely terrified that their kids are being sent to Iran or have orders there. And you know what they've told me? They will not vote for a single Republican this November because of that.
Well, it's a good thing to note that two members of that crew were rescued. They're okay. But again, to your point, in everything we've heard, there's not been that reflective moment about the lives of our servicemen and women that he's put in harm's way.
He has. You ask who is advising the president? Well, the defense secretary is probably one of the folks. But you talk about distractions and mixed messages. He's too busy blocking women and black people from being Navy, from promotions. This is from the New York Times on June 1st. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth recently blocked the promotions of 9 Navy officers who had been selected by a board of senior Navy admirals. 3 of the officers removed by Mr. Hegseth from the promotion list are women, and 2 are black men.
I mean, Pete Hegseth has been very clear from the beginning that he does not think women and people of color should be able to serve in the military. And we should be recruiting our best and brightest from every background and every walk of life to be able to serve. And that's the beauty of the military, is we're a mixing pot of the entire country. And to your question earlier, that's what veterans do, is we figure out how to work with the people we have to be able to get things done and to be able to solve problems. And so what I would always say is, I was a former Navy helicopter pilot, only 6% of naval aviators are women. And I would always say the helicopter doesn't know what gender the person is. You just got to get the job done. And that is the mindset that I'm bringing to office to be able to actually get stuff done. But I mean, Pete Hegseth is a disgrace to the office that he holds.
So, Rebecca, your race has garnered national attention in part because the incumbent you are running against, Republican Tom Kean Jr. of the great state of New Jersey, has been MIA for what is now a pretty concerning period of time. Just given how high the stakes are in this moment, given that we are a country at war, what is your greatest concern for your district, the district you live in, as a constituent, about the fact that you do not currently have an active member of Congress?
Yeah, I mean, he's been missing for...
ভিতর গভীরে সাজিয়ে নৌকো ভাসিয়ে যাব বহুদূর রাতে ওই জোছনা